Welcome back in A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. You search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Again, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. I'm at Mark Zinno. You can follow our next guest on Twitter at FalcFans. He is the host of Locked On Falcons as we get set for minicamp. Let's welcome in our good buddy Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons. Aaron, what's up, buddy? How are we doing today?
I'm doing all right, Mark.
Doesn't sound very much like a resounding, load of happiness as we head into mandatory minicamp.
Well, the heat's getting to me. It's been a long summer. We're getting into that dead time of football, so I'm not looking forward to that. But we got some football ahead of us right here with this mandatory minicamp for the Falcons.
Yeah, and, we've debated a lot this offseason about Desmond Ridder and where he's going to fit into this offense and where and how much time, how much opportunity he's going to get to start for this team. So as we finally start to see, what they call real bullets flying, AKA meaning they can actually hit somebody and put pads on during minicamp, what are we expecting? I mean, I assume when we get out there later today that we will see Marcus Mariota under center with the right. I mean, that's a fait accompli at this point.
Yeah, I think so. It's been Mariota's job to lose. The question has been sort of whether or not Ridder can close that gap between now and the start of training camp. And then obviously when we get to training camp, that's really where he'll have a really golden opportunity to really make up ground. But, starting jobs aren't won in the month of June. Those are won in July and August and whatnot. So I think Mariota is certainly the guy at this point. And the question is just going to be, is he going to be the guy by the time we get to September?
Do we get a sense that we can glean anything, you think, from mandatory minicamp and Desmond Ridder? Can we get a sense of anything that may translate to the NFL level from Cincinnati?
It's tough because you're not seeing a guy that's going up against, as you joked before we went on air, real bullets flying at this point in time. It's all blanks, I guess you could say, if you want to continue that analogy. And I think that's really the concern with Desmond Ridder as he transitions to the next level is how is he going to deal with pressure, particularly playing behind a Falcons offensive line that has not been very good at preventing their quarterbacks from playing under pressure. And so that's really the question. And I don't know if minicamp or really anything that happens this time of year really kind of translates to what's going to matter once we get to September. But certainly I think you can just see, the arm strength, the accuracy, those types of things when you're essentially throwing against air at this point in time. I know that was a major question mark for Desmond Ridder coming out of Cincinnati, questions and concerns about his accuracy. So I guess you can ask yourself and see if that's gotten better or that's still a major concern. But I think outside of that, you're not really going to be able to glean something at this point in time in the calendar that's going to really translate to, the fall.
My other biggest concern, at least for the rookies, more than anything, is that they stay injury-free. I think this is the longest period of their career so far to this point they've been without football, right? I mean, because the draft process and everything leading up to it doesn't necessarily allow for these guys to be on a football field, running reps, going through motions and everything else because of between getting drafted, signing a contract, picking up, moving, finding play, all that stuff. You just hope that all these kids get out of this thing 100% healthy. So fingers crossed on that. But the other thing that I'm really curious to see is where Tyler Algier fits in the running back room and how quickly he may ascend to the top of the depth chart for running backs. As I told you, he's my bet for starting running back week 1 on opening day. So I'm curious to see how that whole thing will unfold.
Yeah, I think I probably put Patterson ahead of him, but I think obviously Patterson's bread is going to be buttered in the passing game this year. And I think if the Falcons can get Algier to really take a lot of that burden as the true blue running back that's going to be carrying the football, that will be a win for them. I'm not as high on Tyler Algier in terms of how he translates to the NFL. We talked about this, I think, probably the last time I was on the pod, Mark, where, I'm not sure if he's significantly better than some of the other day three running backs that the Falcons have taken over the last couple of years with guys like Brian Hill and Ito Smith and Quadri Olison. But the one thing that Algier has going for him that those guys didn't have, those guys were buried on the depth chart behind guys like Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman and Todd Gurley, et cetera. Algier is not going to have that problem moving forward. So he will certainly have an opportunity to make a name for himself this summer. And we may very well see him, emerge due to that opportunity if he can take advantage of that later this year.
One more on offense here, Aaron. And Arthur Smith said it last week at the end of OTAs about Kyle Pitts, that we're just scratching the surface. And I'm going to be annoying about this, and we're going to talk about this from now till the end of December. But if that's the case and you've only scratched the surface, I'll repeat that it is completely derelict and wanton coaching if you do not force feed him the ball and he gets 120 targets this year. I mean, Arthur Smith is essentially confirming what my thought was by saying, well, we've only scratched. Well, the only way to find out if the surface is anything below the surface is anything good is to keep scratching away. And the only way you keep scratching away is keep feeding him the damn football. So Arthur Smith confirming what my feeling was on how much Kyle Pitts is going to be used this year.
Yeah, that was something that was kind of missing from the offense last year, where you didn't see a lot of the Falcons just kind of manufacturing those targets, getting him to run those like quick outs and those hitches for like 5 yards and just get him the ball and let him sort of cook after the catch and do those types of things. And that's why early in the season, it was Calvin Ridley that was sort of leading the team in targets. It wasn't particularly close between him and Pitts. And then later in the season, it was kind of Russell Gage that was leading the team in targets, much to everyone's surprise. So Kyle Pitts was sort of consistently the secondary option for the Falcons in the passing game. And I think this year, all expectations are he's going to be that primary option. There's not going to be a veteran opposite him at that wide receiver position, with Drake London likely being the top target getter at that position, but it's going to probably take him a little bit of time to transition to the league, like we kind of saw Kyle Pitts last year, maybe a month or two before he can really get up to speed in the regular season. So I'm with you. I think getting Kyle Pitts, as many touches as he possibly can get, if that's 10, 12, 15 type targets a game, even if a lot of those are sort of dinking and dunking, just finding ways to sort of keep the offense on schedule, especially going back to the point we made early with the running game. If you're not going to be able to rely on that to sort of pound the football, Kyle Pitts is a really good option. 5 yards is 5 yards, whether you get it handing the ball off to Cordero Patterson, to Tyler Algier, or throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts. I think that will be a great way for the Falcons to sort of keep their offense on schedule and also find ways to get their top playmaker the football.
By the way, I'm going to whine about one other thing. Okay. I love the smile on your face for those who are watching on YouTube. For those who are just listening to the normal podcast, Aaron is giving me that wry smile as if to say, oh, here we go again. I'm going to complain about one other thing, and I'm going to be watching. And I don't care if it's not regular season. I'm looking at the first preseason game, the first red zone possession, the very first time they snap a ball inside the 10-yard line. If the pass play doesn't go to Kyle Pitts, I'm going to make a stink about it. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Thank you.
I recently went back and rewatched some of the red zone stuff from early in the season. In that first game against Philadelphia, he wasn't even on the field. And I remember that being a thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot how.
Yeah, it was a thing. When you drafted him fourth overall, it was a big thing. It was definitely a thing.
Yeah. And so, I think Arthur Smith can certainly placate a lot of folks if he can get Kyle Pitts a touchdown. I mean, he only scored one touchdown last year. And it wasn't
can match his season total in week one, baby. Week one, he can match his season total. And that's the goal. That's my bold prediction. Week one, Kyle Pitts will match his I tell you what, let's even go one further, Aaron, because I'm a gambler. Week one, Kyle Pitts will exceed his entire 2021 touchdown total in week one of the season. Write it down, book it. It's a bet.
I think I might have to join you and put a little bit of money on that as well, because I think that's a great bet as well.
Now I'm looking for the touchdown prop for Kyle Pitts in week one. That's where my head is going. All right, real quick, let's flip over to defense. Okay, let's phrase it this way. Because everybody's expected to be in attendance at mandatory minicamp, what the hell is Deion Jones still doing here?
Yeah, I mean, that situation is interesting. I've talked about it a ton on Locked On Falcons. It's kind of just in wait and see mode. Everything I've heard from other folks that cover the team seem like it is inevitable that the Falcons will part ways with Deion Jones. It's just a matter of timing, how it happens, trade, cut, You know, is it this month? Is it next month? Is it August? At some point in time this summer, you know, Deion Jones will no longer be a Falcon. We just gotta twiddling our thumbs and just waiting to see how and when it happens.
So either we're going to pay him $20 million or we're not going to pay him $20 million and we're going to fake leave $18 million on our books, right? Like that's the end result of this whole thing. I mean, I think obviously they're waiting and hoping, you know, they don't ever hope somebody gets hurt, but they're waiting and hoping a middle linebacker somewhere, you know, goes down and all of a sudden somebody is in need and somebody will say, hey, we'll give you a 6th round conditional pick for Deion Jones right now. And the Falcons go, thank you. But I'm curious, you know, if you were Terry Fontenot, would you want the pick or them to take more of the salary?
You know, if I'm Terry
I want the pick.
Yeah, I think I want the pick, even if it's a late round pick. I think this team needs as many young assets as they can get in the future. So I would probably just take the pick at this point in time. Like, you know, it's not as if you're going to go out there and sign some Hall of Fame player at this point in time with the sort of cap space. You're just getting bodies into camp. So the pick is going to give you more value, certainly over the long term.
There's 62 million over the cap. What's the difference between like 80 million and 75 million, right? What are we really talking about here?
Yeah.
Half your cap is dead anyway. Defensively, you know, obviously the standouts we know are there and the names that everybody's going to know are there. It's Grady Jarrett, it's AJ Terrell, you know, and maybe one or two other guys who can emerge. But I'm just, now that Dean Pease has had a full another year to sort of acquire at least the talent that he wants. Granted, it's not high-level talent, but he's acquired the players he thinks fit best in his scheme. How much of an improvement is likely?
I think this defense is moving in the right direction. You know, most of my questions about this team moving forward are on the offensive side of the ball. You know, that doesn't mean I necessarily think this defense is going to be great this year. I still think they'll probably be a below average defense. But the goal, I think, is to get closer to the middle of the pack. The goal is to keep this team competitive in games. And even as bad as the defense was last year, there were several games last year where the defense was able to get stops and the offense wasn't able to sort of take advantage of those opportunities, whether they be, you know, 3 and outs or turnovers or whatever the case may be. And I expect more of the same from this defense. It's not going to be a great unit, but it's going to be scrappy. It's going to be competitive. It should be able to match up with most teams as long as they can kind of fix the run defense. I feel like that's the one area that the Falcons haven't really addressed. And as Arthur Smith has sort of put forward, that they may be looking for more trench help later this summer. So I'm looking forward to see if the Falcons add another body up front, another big body up front that can help keep some of these linebackers clean and help boost that run defense. And if they can do that, I really will feel a lot better about this defense's ability to be competitive this year.
He is the host of Locked On Falcons right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Aaron Freeman here on A to Z. I will ask you one more question. Did the Braves make it lucky 13 tonight, Aaron?
We'll see. I don't know. Braves are going to brave. So, you know, they're doing good things right now, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, over or under Falcons wins on the Braves winning streak this year. You know, it might have been an interesting question a month ago if you'd asked that. Will the Falcons have more wins than the longest Braves winning streak this year, considering they only won 2? But here we are. All right. Check it out again. Locked On Falcons. Aaron Freeman. Thanks for the time as always, brother. We appreciate it. All right, take a time out, come back, and wrap things up here on A to Z. Stay with us. It's Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta.